The stars above the alien council's homeworld burned bright, peaceful and familiar until that night. At first, the space traffic controllers thought it was a comet. A silent, slow-moving shape entered their orbit, massive, cold, and covered in armor that swallowed radar. It did not send a signal, did not respond to hails. It simply drifted closer, like a shadow carried by fear itself. In the control room, Captain Viral leaned forward, his scales trembling under the cold light of the screens. "It's not one of ours," he whispered. "It's not anything we know." The technicians ran endless scans, but the results made no sense. The object's metal was unknown. Its engines were silent. It moved without propulsion, like space itself carried it. When the first close-up images appeared, the room fell quiet. The ship was enormous, bigger than their dreadnoughts, maybe by 10 times. Its hull was marked with strange lines, battle scars, symbols, and an old human word etched deep into the metal. Titan. Rumors had spread across the galaxy about humans. Primitive, dangerous, extinct according to the Council's old records. But now, something was here, something that bore their mark. "Impossible," one scientist stammered. "Humans vanished centuries ago." Yet the readings were real. The Titan-class warship drifted closer to their orbit, its hull glowing faintly from re-entry. It wasn't attacking, but its silence was worse than any threat. Every defense satellite turned its cannons toward it, yet none dared to fire first. The ship's presence alone crushed their courage. Admiral Sael entered the chamber, his voice low. "If that is human, then we are not ready for what comes next." He stared at the screen, watching the massive ship blot out their moon. Then, as if hearing him, the Titan Warship came to life. Light flared across its hull, thousands of windows glowing like awakened eyes. The soundless engines roared, vibrating through the entire planet's atmosphere. Communication lines exploded with static. Every alien race that monitored the channel froze as one phrase appeared on every screen. Written in old Terran code, "We see you." A pulse of blue energy rippled from the ship, harmless yet powerful enough to disable all nearby defense systems. The alien fleet scrambled, but their systems were blind. Panic spread. Civilians stared up from the surface as a shadow crossed the skies, darker than night. For the first time in generations, the mighty Galactic Council, the same one that had ruled unchallenged, felt true fear. The silence after the pulse was deafening. The humans had returned, and they had brought something beyond war. A message. The Titan Warship slowly adjusted its course, hovering above the capital's upper atmosphere. Every weapon on the planet locked on it, but the humans didn't fire. They simply watched. Somewhere deep inside the alien city, a child asked her mother, "Mama, what is that?" Her mother looked up, voice trembling. "That, my child, is why the stars fear humans." And as the Titan's lights dimmed, a single transmission echoed across the galaxy. A human voice, calm, deep, and filled with command, spoke just 5 words that froze even the bravest warriors. "First contact. Begins now." The transmission echoed through every channel in the system. Those 5 words, "First contact. Begins now," were enough to turn calm leaders into trembling shadows. The alien council chamber filled with whispers, fear, and disbelief. Many believed it was a bluff, an automated relic from a lost age. But deep inside, they all knew. No machine could speak with that kind of calm. Human certainty. Admiral Seal stood frozen before the great screen, watching the Titan warship float above their world like a god of metal and light. Its massive hull reflected their sun, creating a burning halo that could be seen from the surface. No fleet in history had ever entered a capital system unchallenged. No one had ever dared, and until now. "Open a channel," Sail commanded, voice tight. "But sir," the technician stammered, "our systems are barely functioning after that pulse. We can't transmit without risking a complete shutdown." "Then use analog," Sail snapped. "If these are humans, they'll understand simplicity." Moments later, the static cleared and a faint voice replied. "Not robotic, not alien, but unmistakably human. This is Captain Elias Ward of the Titan. Identify yourselves." The council members exchanged horrified glances. A living human? That was impossible. According to their ancient archives, humanity had wiped itself out during the Collapse War centuries ago. Yet here was one, commanding a ship beyond comprehension. Viral leaned closer to the mic, voice shaking. "This is the Galactic Council. You have entered restricted airspace. State your purpose." For a long moment there was silence. Then Captain Ward's voice returned, one calm, deep, and firm. "We received your signal. Centuries ago, your kind declared humanity extinct. You were wrong." A collective gasp filled the chamber. The aliens had once studied humans as curiosities, a reckless, emotional species that rose fast and burned out faster. But the truth before them shattered that arrogance. On the surface, people gathered in the streets staring up as the Titan's shadow moved across their sky. Some prayed, some screamed, and others simply watched in awe. The warship didn't fire a single shot, but its presence was a message. Humans didn't need to prove their power. Their silence was enough. Inside the Titan, Captain Ward stood at the bridge window, his eyes locked on the glowing alien cities below. Around him, his crew, all human, worked quietly, disciplined, precise. "They're scared," said Lieutenant Mira, her voice barely above a whisper. "They should be," Ward replied. "We came here for peace. But peace only matters when the other side remembers who we are." Back on the planet, the Council scrambled to understand the human ship's technology. Their sensors couldn't penetrate the Titan's hull. The readings suggested layers of alloys unknown to science, energy signatures off the scale. The Titan could destroy their world, yet it remained still. Then the human transmission returned, this time broadcast across every planet in the system. "We remember your experiments," Captain Ward said. "We remember the burning of Terra. We remember your silence when our colonies called for help. You watched humanity die. But humanity never dies. It rebuilds. Every heart froze. The message wasn't just to one planet. It was to the entire galaxy. A warning. As the signal faded, the Titan's engines ignited again, and the stars themselves seemed to tremble. The great ship turned slowly toward the Council fleet, not to attack, but to remind them humans were back, stronger than ever, and for the first time in millennia, the universe realized something chilling. Fear had changed sides. The Galactic Council sat in silence. The echoes of the humans' broadcast still lingered through the chambers. No one dared to speak first. The truth was a poison that burned in every alien mind. Humanity hadn't perished. They had survived, evolved, and returned in a ship so vast it defied imagination. Admiral Sale rose slowly, his throat dry. "We must understand their intent," he said, though fear hid behind his calm tone. "A ship like that doesn't travel across galaxies for diplomacy alone." The others nodded, but none had the courage to speak against the Admiral's thought. Across the sky, the Titan Warship hung still like a moon made of steel. It didn't attack, didn't move, but its silence was louder than 1,000 cannons. Every hour it stayed above their world. Fear deepened. In the lower cities, people whispered tales of the old wars, stories of when humans fought not with numbers, but with fury. "They were fragile," one elder said, "yet when cornered, they turned entire worlds to ash." Children huddled closer to their parents, looking up at the sky that now glowed with the reflection of the Titan's engines. Inside the Titan, Captain Ward stood in the observation deck, eyes fixed on the alien planet below. Lieutenant Mira approached quietly. "Sir," she said, "the scans are complete. It's them, the same species that left us to die on Terra during the collapse." Ward didn't turn. "Then fate brought us back to their doorstep," he murmured. "Not for revenge, but for memory." The crew worked silently. Their uniforms bore the insignia of the old Earth Defense Command, long thought extinct. The ship itself was a monument, built not only of steel but of history. Each plate of armor carried the names of colonies lost in the ancient war. Humanity's pain had been turned into a weapon. Back on the planet, the Council finally gathered courage to respond. "Human vessel Titan," Veyral announced through trembling lips. "If peace is your goal, why do you bring a warship?" Ward's reply came with a calm that froze the entire chamber. "Because peace without strength is a promise easily broken. We remember what happened the last time we trusted your Council's peace." The chamber fell into chaos. Historians and strategists scrambled through their archives. They found old, forgotten files, fragments of reports describing how the Council once used humanity as soldiers in their wars, then abandoned them when the tides turned. Humanity's homeworld had burned under alien indifference. "Sir," said a young analyst, voice shaking, "if they remember everything, they might come for judgment." On the surface, storms began to form as the Titan's gravity affected the atmosphere. Lightning flashed across the horizon, framing the massive warship in blue fire. It looked like a god descending from the heavens, silent but full of wrath. Yet inside the ship, Captain Ward stood alone in his quarters holding an old metal tag, his father's. The name was faded, the edges burned. "You died believing humanity was forgotten," he whispered. "But now, they'll remember us." In orbit, the Titan's main cannon slowly rotated, not to fire but to aim into the void. A new message began transmitting, this time to every star nation that once betrayed Earth. The words were few but heavy as thunder. "We do not seek war. But if war seeks us, we will finish what you started." And in that moment, across galaxies, every empire understood. The age of human silence had ended. The Council's great ships formed a shimmering ring around the Titan Warship. Each one carried enough firepower to vaporize continents, yet none dared fire the first shot. The silence between the fleets was sharp, heavy, alive. It wasn't a standoff, it was a test of courage, and only one side truly understood fear. In the Council chamber, Admiral Sayal's voice cracked through the tension. "Prepare a delegation. We'll speak to them directly." His officers hesitated, their faces pale. "Sir, you wish to board that thing?" one asked. Sayal turned sharply. "If we don't, we may never speak again." A transport shuttle, small and fragile, broke from the Council fleet. Its path was steady, directed toward the giant ship that blotted out half their sky. The closer they came, the larger the Titan seemed, its hull etched with symbols that told stories of worlds lost and wars survived. It was like flying toward history itself. Inside the Titan, Captain Elias Ward watched their approach. "They're coming," said Mira softly. Ward nodded, eyes fixed on the display. "Good, let them see what they abandoned." As the shuttle docked, its crew trembled. The airlock opened with a hiss, revealing a corridor lined with silver walls and dim blue light. The floor hummed under their boots, alive with energy. Two human soldiers stood waiting, tall, calm, expressionless. Their armor bore the insignia of the Earth Reborn fleet. "Welcome aboard the Titan," one said coldly. "Follow us." The aliens walked in silence. Everything about the ship felt alien, yet unmistakably human. It smelled of metal, oil, and determination. They passed through halls filled with human faces, some scarred, some mechanical, all watching. These were not the frail beings the Council remembered. These were survivors shaped by centuries of war. Finally, they entered the command hall. Captain Ward stood at the center, his coat dark and his eyes sharp like the void. Behind him, the great viewport showed the alien world below, tiny, fragile, and trembling. "Captain Ward," Admiral Sayal began, forcing a diplomatic tone. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I come to—" Ward raised a hand. "No speeches," he said quietly. "I'm not here for your politics. I'm here for truth." The alien delegation exchanged nervous looks. "Truth?" Sayal asked. Ward's gaze darkened. "You left our people to die during the collapse. When our colonies screamed for help, your council declared us extinct. You erased us from your maps. But humanity doesn't vanish, it adapts. It remembers." He turned to the viewport, his voice low but filled with fire. "You called yourselves our allies. Then you watched our skies burn." Sayal took a shaky breath. We thought you were gone. We thought no one survived." Ward's lips tightened into a cold smile. "That's what you wanted to believe. But look at us now. Humanity didn't die, it evolved." For a long, tense moment, no one spoke. The air seemed to vibrate with restrained fury. Then Ward stepped forward, his voice soft but cutting like a blade. "You fear us because you see what you tried to destroy. The Titan is not just a ship, it's a reminder. Every scar on its hull tells a story you wanted to forget." The Admiral lowered his eyes. "What do you want from us?" Ward's eyes burned like twin stars. "Justice, and the truth, spoken to every world you deceived." Outside, the Titan's engines roared to life. The sound echoed across the void, shaking the stars themselves. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy would hear humanity's voice again. As the shuttle departed, one alien whispered to another. We looked into the eyes of a ghost, and it looked back. The next sunrise over the alien capital was unlike any before. The sky still glowed faintly red from the Titan's exhaust trails, a reminder that the humans were no myth. Across the city, broadcasts replayed the humans' message. Justice and truth for every world you deceived. The words had become a storm sweeping across the galaxy, igniting both fear and curiosity. In the council chambers, chaos reigned. Delegates from dozens of worlds shouted over each other, some demanding war, others begging for peace. "We cannot allow them to dictate terms," cried General Harv, pounding a scaled fist on the table. "They come as conquerors." Admiral Sale, weary and pale, raised a trembling hand. "No," he said quietly. "They come as survivors." Outside the planet's orbit, the Titan hung silent once more. Its massive silhouette stretched across the light of two suns, dwarfing everything around it. Within its core, Captain Ward stood before a holographic projection, an ancient image of Earth, blue and whole. The ship's AI flickered beside him. Signal intercepts show panic across their systems. "They're mobilizing fleets." Ward's expression didn't change. "Expected," he said softly. "Let them." Fear is the first step toward understanding. Lieutenant Mira approached, eyes sharp. "Sir, do we reveal our true fleet?" Ward's lips curved slightly. "Not yet. One Titan is enough to remind them of what we became. The others wait in the dark. Far beyond the system, hidden in the shadows of gas giants and asteroid belts, more human warships stirred. Their hulls bore the same ancient marks. Titan. The fleet of ghosts was waking, one ship at a time. On the alien homeworld, Admiral Sale received a message, an invitation. The humans wanted to meet again, this time on neutral ground, the moon above their capital. "They want to talk?" the council leader asked, stunned. "After everything?" Sale nodded grimly. "They don't talk for peace. They talk for history." Hours later, under the cold light of their twin moons, Sale's shuttle touched down on the gray surface. Waiting there was Captain Ward, surrounded by armored soldiers. The ground shimmered with faint blue light from the Titan above, casting shadows that felt alive. Ward spoke first. "Admiral Sale, when humanity fell, you watched. You did nothing. But today we stand again, not for vengeance, but to remind the stars that silence has a cost." Sale's voice wavered. "If your kind still remembers, what do you seek now?" Ward turned his gaze to the horizon, where the planet glowed like a jewel beneath them. "We seek acknowledgement. And warning, the age of human extinction never began. You wrote our obituary too early." The Admiral swallowed hard. "And if the Council refuses your demand?" Ward stepped closer, his eyes hard as iron. "Then the universe will remember the name Titan not as a ship, but as a verdict." The ground rumbled as the warship above repositioned, its engines glowing like suns. From space, fleets of alien worlds began to arrive, drawn by fear and awe. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy's most powerful empires gathered not to fight each other, but to face one resurrected species. As the wind swept over the lunar dust, Captain Ward spoke again, his voice carried across the comms to every ship and world listening. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to remind you. Humanity never kneels." And as the Titan's lights flared, the stars themselves seemed to bow in silence. From orbit, the galaxy watched. Every broadcast, every feed, every commander with access to a telescope had their eyes fixed on one thing: the Titan Warship, humanity's ghost, now alive and blazing above the alien capital. The ship didn't need to move to inspire terror. Its very stillness was power, its silence a weapon sharper than any blade. Inside the alien council's war chamber, tension broke the air like glass. The council leader, her jeweled crest dimmed in fear, slammed her claws against the console. "We cannot let them control the narrative. If the lesser worlds believe humans are gods, the council will crumble." Admiral Sale stood at the edge of the table, exhausted yet calm. "Then tell me, Madam Speaker," he said quietly, "how does one control fear?" No one answered. The question lingered like a shadow. On the Titan's bridge, Captain Ward watched the alien fleets forming defensive rings far below. Their ships were vast and colorful, covered in gold and crystal, symbols of ancient pride. But Ward saw through it. Fear hid beneath every polished hull. "They'll either kneel," he said, "or they'll fire." Lieutenant Mira approached him, datapad in hand. "Scanners confirm they've mobilized their entire planetary defense grid." "Sir, they're terrified." Ward's expression didn't change. "Good," he said softly. "Fear means they're listening." A new signal pinged the Titan's comms, a message broadcast to every world in the sector. The Council declared humanity a rogue threat, and ordered all ships to prepare for battle. Within minutes, thousands of vessels lit up the void. The Titan didn't move. Shields? Mira asked quietly. Ward shook his head. No, let them see us unshielded. Let them know how little they matter. From the alien command bridge, Admiral Sale watched the fleets align. If we fire, he said, we start a war we can't win. The council leader hissed, you think they'll spare us fire? And so the sky ignited. Thousands of plasma cannons, rail slugs, and energy lances streaked toward the Titan, a storm of color and fury. For a few moments, it looked as though the heavens themselves were falling. But when the light cleared, the Titan still stood, untouched, the airwaves filled with static and disbelief. Inside the ship, Ward turned toward Mira. Activate the veil, he said. A soft hum filled the air. Across the Titan's hull, millions of lights came alive, not from weapons, but from energy shields so vast they bent light itself. The alien fleet saw their attacks absorbed and scattered like rain against glass. Then, Ward gave the order that would echo through history. Send the message. All across the galaxy, every ship, every planet, every transmission channel flickered to life, displaying a single image, the Titan, glowing in the dark, surrounded by the very fleets that tried to destroy it. Then came Ward's voice. Calm, cold, undeniable. You've spent centuries teaching the galaxy to fear humans. Today we teach it to respect them, he turned to Mira. Now, show them the truth. The Titan opened its lower bays, revealing massive hangars filled not with bombs but relief pods, medical, food, and water supplies. They dropped through orbit, glowing like falling stars, descending onto the alien capital. The message was clear. Humanity didn't come to destroy. It came to show that mercy was not weakness. On the surface, alien civilians watched the pods land. Inside them were not weapons but aid. Admiral Sale watched the feeds in stunned silence. They could have ended us, he whispered. Instead, they helped us. And above, Captain Ward looked out over the glowing planet, his voice low. Let them remember. Fear doesn't build peace. Humanity does. The stars seemed to shimmer brighter that night, as if even they were in awe. The next morning, the alien capital awoke beneath a different sky. The Titan Warship still hovered above the clouds, a silent guardian painted in silver light. But the people no longer hid in fear. They looked up, not with hatred, not with panic, but with wonder. The ship that could have ended their world had instead saved it. The relief pods had brought food, medicine, and technology beyond anything they'd seen. Hospitals overflowed not with the wounded, but with the healed. The Titan's drones worked silently among alien engineers, rebuilding shattered systems, restoring life to cities that had forgotten mercy. The same word whispered through the streets carried on every voice, humans. Inside the council chambers, the atmosphere was heavy with shame. The speaker stood pale and trembling before the galaxy's cameras. We were wrong, she admitted. Humanity did not vanish into war. Humanity rose from it. The declaration spread across the stars faster than any weapon ever could. In orbit, Captain Elias Ward stood at the great viewport watching the planet spin below. They see us differently now, said Lieutenant Mira, standing beside him. Her voice was quiet, almost reverent. Ward nodded. Fear fades, but respect, that lasts. For the first time in centuries, humans had returned to the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as witnesses. The Titan's message had spread to every world that once turned its back on Earth, and one by one, they began to remember the humans who had built, fought, dreamed, and sacrificed for the stars. A message came through from Admiral Sale. Captain Ward, his voice echoed through the comm, the Council requests your presence. They wish to sign an accord. Ward's lips curved into a faint smile. An accord? Sale hesitated. Between humanity and the galaxy, a promise of coexistence. Not out of fear, but out of respect. The bridge crew exchanged glances. After centuries of silence, the galaxy was offering peace. Ward looked at the symbol on his sleeve, Earth Reborn Fleet, and then at the endless expanse beyond the window. Prepare the shuttle, he said quietly. It's time humanity took its seat again. As the shuttle descended through the clouds, the alien crowds below erupted in awe. Thousands gathered to see the first human in living memory step onto their soil. Cameras flashed. Soldiers stood aside. The very air felt like history being rewritten. Captain Ward stepped onto the platform, the council waiting before him. Admiral Sale bowed slightly, a gesture never before given to another species. "You came with war, Captain," Sale said softly. "But you gave us peace, why?" Ward looked at the horizon, where the suns were rising side by side. "Because once humanity learned the cost of hate, we built the Titan not to rule the stars, but to remind them, even when forgotten, we never lose our humanity." He turned his gaze to the crowd. "You feared us because you didn't understand us. But fear fades when truth is seen. The Titan will leave soon, but our message remains. Peace is earned when strength is tempered by mercy." Above them, the Titan's engines began to glow, casting long beams of golden light across the city. The great ship rose slowly, its reflection mirrored in every window, every tear, every eye that dared to look up. As it climbed toward the stars, a child's voice echoed from the crowd below, soft, trembling, full of hope. "Mama," she whispered, "were the humans angels?" Her mother smiled faintly, eyes glistening as the Titan vanished into the light. "No, child," she said. "They were us, at our best." And with that, humanity's legend spread once more through the galaxy, not as a warning but as a promise. The end, but for the galaxy it was only the beginning.